Welcome back, gang. Thanks for joining me on this video for Tales from the Loop, the board game alpha build, print and play. Jump on over to the Kickstarter. In the campaign page, you'll see a link to the print and play files. Print those suckers out and get into the game yourself, and let us know what you think. Diary cards are the heartbeat of Tales from the Loop. During the setup of the scenario, it'll tell you which of these cards you'll set up and have as active cards. Start all diary cards when they become active on side A. The exception to this is odd sidings. Diary card number 2 is identical on both side A and side B. It's primarily a reference to let the players know how both Insight and Enigma will raise. Over here on diary card number 30, it'll tell you what's going on in the islands, where you need to maintain your focus, and a little bit of flair for making sure the characters know what it is they need to be focusing their attention and actions on. And there will be a point when a diary card will come out. I don't want to spoil anything for you. A diary card will come out, it'll tell you this is how you win, or hey, you've lost. Normally things that are going to cause a game to lose could be the enigma or the mystery is getting too great for the kids to discover. So again, a spoiler, something you might consider that the game, as the enigma rises, if it reaches a certain threshold, that might be a lose condition. Multiple diary cards can be active at the same time. Now, I've said throughout my videos that the game of Tales from the Loop, the board game, is very narrative heavy. So trust me, diary cards are your go-to if you want to advance the game and get to that win condition. I don't want to spoil anything for you, so just trust me. Go through the diary cards, you'll find out what it is. The eureka moment when everything happens is what this game is all about. You may not know how you're going to win right away or how you're going to lose the game right away, but as long as you're pushing those cards forward and you're focusing on those, you might discover, oh, I lost this time, but I might have an idea of how to win next time. Focus on diary cards to push the narrative, focus on rumor locations, and also focus on your chore cards to allow yourself to get even more benefits. Turns are kept track of here on the weekly schedule. As turns progress, you move from Monday through Sunday. As you move into Friday of the first week, your chore cards that were distributed to you during the setup phase will check to see if the threshold is met and if you completed it in order to draw a week 2 chore. As you move into the weekend, this is a special round. During the special round, the event text on the school cards that are drawn is ignored, and each character receives 3 extra time tokens during this turn only, for a total of 9. As you move into the second week, you'll notice that chores are checked on Thursday, and again the weekend gives you that special event round. And if you get to the second week and you still haven't completed, or you still haven't won, or you still haven't lost, just move the token back over into the first week, consider it a third week, and then continue with the game and try to meet the objective. Alright, let's talk a little bit about dice rolls and helping. In this scenario, we've got Veronica and Lena in the same open location here at Morby, location November. Veronica just took a move action and moved from the school into Morby, and Lena was already at location November. Now, Veronica, on her second action, is going to take an investigate action at location N, which is identified by a rumor token. You're going to immediately flip over the card and see what the test is. Now we've got a strange hum. We read the flavor text, we look at what the test is going to be, and then Veronica is going to start with her base dice of 3. She's going to look and see if this icon or this tag matches her tag on her character sheet. So it doesn't match her strength and it doesn't match her weakness, so she's still at a base dice of 3. Now Lena decides to help Veronica, so what Lena needs to do is take one of her time tokens and spend it. Remember, spending is putting a time token into the portrait area. that's going to give Veronica an extra die to roll in her dice pool. And oh my gosh, what is this? Veronica has in her possession the item D64 computer. It does match the icon tag here because of the color, so that item is going to give her an additional die. Now let's say that we had multiple blue cards. For every blue card item that you have, you could get one extra die. So if you had a full set of blue cards in your inventory, remember you can only have a maximum of 4, you would get 1 die per card right now as I understand it. So anybody want to put comments in the section below, I will make an edit to that, but that's how I understand the rules. While you'll be extremely strong in that specific area of your stats, you're going to be weak in others. Alright, so we take our dice pool, and we were looking for 6s, and we got 2 6s. But wait, something has happened in the loop, and Veronica thought she rolled 2 successes, but she didn't. Okay, so let's say that this was the scenario and this was the roll. So Veronica could push, and the way that she pushes is takes one of her time tokens and places it on any of her conditions. Let's say there was an existing condition there. She has to take one that's more severe, so make sure you place it below the most severe that's there. She could choose scared or injured. So let's say she had no conditions. She's going to take exhausted because all it does is take up a time token, and that will let her re-roll all of her dice. Guess what? She failed that roll, and a character can only push once in a action, so that would be the end of that action. Alright, first thing at the beginning of the school phase, make sure that all of the kids are back at the school location, and that's in location M. The school phase happens at the beginning of every day in a day of Tales from the Loop, the board game. The first player is going to draw the top card off of the school deck and then place it face up in front of them just so that the individual can read it. And we're going to resolve the card from top to bottom, and we're going to do 4 things. We're going to look at number of rumor cards that are going to come out, who is going to be doing the test, if there is a firmware upgrade icon, and then the icons on the bottom and the top we're going to reference on the drawn card and then the previous discarded card. Alright, so I've got a couple of cards out here to give you sort of an example of the rumor portion of the school phase. You're going to look at the top left corner and you can see you can have a 1 rumor card drawn, 2 X is the number of players minus 1, and sometimes you'll even have a space here that doesn't have a number at all, so just make sure that those card numbers are the ones that are drawn, and we'll go over to the rumor draw deck. Alright, so let's say that we are in a second round and we were told that in the detention card up at the top left of that card there's a number 1, so that's going to indicate that I'm going to draw 1 card and put that out into starting with space 1. Now it's going to replace whatever card is at space number 4. That's going to be alpha, and it's going to be pushed off, so we would push alpha off, 3 would go to 4, 2 to 3, 1 to 2, and then the new rumor card Charlie would be the one that would come out. Alright, so here's a different scenario. Let's say that we drew this card, Substitute Teacher, and you can see in the top left the corner there's a number 3 up here, and let's see how that would go. So we would draw 3 cards. Now we know that before we do this, we want to make sure that we push space number 3. We would simulate that we completed that rumor on the previous day, so we would first slide down the cards. Now there's a open space, everything's slid over to the right. Now we would want to draw 3 cards. So the first one is going to be Charlie. We need to draw a second one, so we're going to have to push spot number 4, which is X. I apologize for the glare there. X would go off the board, and that would be considered a failure in relation to the scenario cards and in odd siding scenario cards, which we kind of covered in the previous look. Whenever a test on any rumor card is failed, we're going to raise the Enigma. So that is one way that the Enigma track can go up. Alright, so we've drawn one card. The second card we're going to have to slide down the track. That's going to be card number 2. Now this situation, we've got an A and we've got another A on the board. So even though we weren't able to complete A on the previous turn, A would come off. We would slide the cards down and then add a new A to the board. Something to consider is if, let's say that we had a K out on space 1, 2, 3, or 4, and the track is full after we did our rumor draw, and K was the top of the deck, you could foresee that we would need to complete K if it was already out here, because we know it would be pushed off and considered a failure on the next day. After the rumor track is filled up, make sure that every displayed location letter has a rumor token placed near the space on the board to indicate to the characters where they need to focus their attention to solve those rumors. Now, moving into the event portion of the school card, we're going to look at the right of the title banner, and we're going to see the icon here indicates who's going to be taking the test or who's going to be affected by the event. Now, the solid meeple icon here is going to be a single. Only the first player does the test. You're going to have the meeple with the exclamation point. That's going to be every character, so this is an individual event. And then you've got one with 3 meeples in it. That's going to be every player individually does a test. Now, something to consider, whenever you're doing the single, you don't get help. Whenever you're doing the individual, you don't get help. But when you're doing a group event, you can get help. And we'll go over help in a later portion of this video. Alright, so when you're doing the event and you've indicated who's going to be doing the event, you read the flavor text. Highly recommend that. This is a very narrative-heavy game. You're going to look and see what it is that the test tag is. So look at your character sheet. Alright, so let's say for the detention school card, Lena was a first player. This is a single event. So she would read the flavor text, she would look and see if she gains any benefit. Again, she's going to be doing a test, so she'll get her base of 3 die, looks at her tags to see what her strength and weaknesses are. If she has a strength that matches the type of test that's being done, she's going to add 2 dice. Now let's say that slow was inside this icon space here, she would actually minus 2 die and roll a single die. So here's a different example. If Veronica was the first player and we drew Magnetrine Crash, it is a single test. We read the flavor text, we look at the test, and if there's any benefits, she'd take her base 3 die, check and see if any of her strengths or weaknesses are indicated on the test. She has a weakness here, so she's going to take that initial dice pool of 3 and minus 2, and she'll roll to try to complete the Magnetron Crash with 1 die trying to get a 6. Highly recommend you keep track and awareness of what your strengths and weaknesses are so that your dice pool can change dynamically, and then based on whether or not you rolled a success, remember 6s are success, you just need 1 out of your entire dice pool. Failures, take what you gain or what you lose, and then we'll move on to the firmware upgrades. And we're going to draw during the school phase, and we have a card Sensor Sweep, and the bottom left corner has a firmware upgrade icon. If it does, we check to see if the previous discarded card from the previous turn also has a firmware upgrade, and that will indicate whether or not the firmware upgrade activates. Alright, so now that we know that the firmware upgrade has triggered, you need to look at the machine sheets. That's all machine sheets, and we're going to see whether or not the machines are hacked or not. If they are not hacked, all you need to do is look at the Firewall token track at the bottom and remove the rightmost Firewall token, and that's it. The machine is ready to go. Now let's say that the machine is hacked, and we'll go over hacked in a later portion of the video. If the machine is hacked, which means it's being controlled by the characters, you're going to remove all of the Firewall tokens. You're going to make the system or the machine itself reset, and resetting is removing all the firewall tokens, and then it's going to no longer be hacked or controlled by the character, and the machine is going to return to its starting location indicated on the scenario. If there's multiple locations based on the scenario, then you return it to the location that is closest to where the machine was when the firmware upgrade triggered. So for machine movement, we're going to look at the bottom of the previously discarded card and the top of the current school card. We're going to show that the 4 blocks here indicate that the worker and the warden are going to move. The worker is going to move 1 space to the east, and the warden is going to move 1 space to the north. And because this icon here has the plus icon inside the arrow, you're going to look at the top left of the discarded card that has the double black border, and it tells you that the warden is going to move an additional space 1 to the east. So let's look at that. Okay, so we're going to go from left to right. We're going to start with the worker. Now it says that the worker is going to move 1 space, that's sector, not location. Machines move by sectors. Going to move 1 sector to the east, so we'll move him into that space. And then looking at the warden's movement, because he's got 1 space to the north, he can't move in there because there's an existing machine there. But he moves an additional space. We look up at the top left, and he moves 1 space to the east, so we'll move him 1 space east. Now be cautious if you ever have a machine that is going to be asked to move into an amphibious space or a water space, as you see by this icon here. If they're not amphibious, they cannot move in that space, and you'll just go ahead and cancel that movement. But wait, there's more. So let's say that the watchdogs were in Bravo 5, nearby open location Charlie, and the school cards moved the watchdogs down and then to the left, and now they're entering into a restricted location. Those watchdogs will go into alert status. If a machine ever moves into a sector that intersects both a restricted location and an open location, the machine will go into routine mode. An alert machine nearby an open location will go back to routine mode during the cleanup step in the home phase, if it hasn't been a target of hacking this turn. Hey, remember those diary cards? Make sure you're looking at them and making sure that you are pushing forward the narrative. During the adventure phase, we're going to talk about trading items, time tokens, spending time tokens, and actions. Okay, so let's say in this scenario, Lena, Nils, and Veronica are all in the same location at the school because they just finished a school phase. They're starting their adventure phase. At the very beginning of the adventure phase, 2 or more characters can trade items freely amongst themselves. Hey, Lena likes all the purple cards, so hey, Veronica, can you give me that purple card? Done. Now let's say at a later time in the game, Veronica really enjoyed that hairspray. She wants to get it back from Lena. As long as Lena and Veronica, 2 or more characters, are in the same location. Now, because it's after the beginning of the adventure phase, one of the participants that are deciding to trade, that could be 2 or more characters, spends 1 time token. So spending a time token is placing the time token on the character's portrait, and then they can carry out the trade. Something to keep in mind as you start to collect items or trade items, characters can never accumulate more than 4 items in their possession, including their iconic item. Alright, let's take a quick look at anomaly cards and item cards. As you collect item cards, they can give you the ability to roll additional die if their color matches what the test is. They also have a second ability with combos. So if I have glue and fire, if I want to make an explosive, I take fire and I combine it with glue, which I have glue from the chewing gum, and I can make an explosive. These explosives will sometimes allow you to auto success on specific tests. Item cards and anomaly cards can usually be acquired through rumors and sometimes schools, or just basically doing the things that you do in the game. Those are primarily how you earn item cards and anomaly cards. Now, anomaly cards, again, they have their own tag, their own combo tag, but they also have uses. Now, just use a time token or any other kind of token that you have that you've accumulated to do this print and play, and put 2 tokens on there. You get 2 uses out of it. Once you use your last use, it's gone. Also, be aware that when you use specific items to combine, they are discarded. Taking a look at the character sheet, we're going to look at the icon here, the time token icon. Anytime you see that, it's referring to the time tokens that you place here on the character sheet. There's a difference between using time tokens to take actions and then time tokens when they're required to be spent. So anytime a card or effect of the game tells you to spend a time token, you're going to take a time token from your time token pool, which is normally at the bottom of the character sheet, and you're going to place it on the character portrait. Throughout the game, as you take actions, you're going to take from your time pool and then place those time tokens on a specific action that you want to take. Some of the time token action spaces are going to be a walk. Maybe I want to take a walk action to get towards one of those restricted locations that were displayed down in the rumor display. That's what drives me to take a walk action, to get where it is that I want to go, to discover those things that are important to me. And keep in mind, while it costs 1 to move into an open location, if a character moves into a restricted location, that particular action will cost them 2 time tokens. However, if a character moves into a restricted location that has had a rumor token and the area has been explored, which means the card has been removed from the rumor display, then moving into a restricted location only costs 1 time token. Scout Fireguard is nearby location N, so she has the ability to do a scout or an investigate because there is a rumor token here as well. So if she does a scout, she could scout either the location card because it's currently not revealed, or she could scout over and look at firewall tokens for the machine. If she decides to do a scout action on the card, she would simply flip the card over. She doesn't have to do the test, but it gives her some insight on what might be required. Hack. Veronica wants to take control of that fire guard there in her nearby sector. Let's see how we do that. A character can try to hack a nearby machine by putting 1 time token in their hacking action space. This allows them to hack one of the machine's firewalls. As you can see, a couple of the firewalls laid out here with their routine side and their alert side. Any other characters in the same location with the current active player can help as usual. Note that each firewall hacked is a distinct action, so different characters can take on different ones. So if you have characters that have strength here in red, as we have Nils here, or have strength in green, like Veronica, make sure that you have a good team of characters, making it easier to get through potential options. However, when it comes to firewalls that require 2 roles, as we see here on this firewall token, on the alert side, we have 2 different distinct tests. The same character has to roll both times, although characters that are in the same location can still help with both rolls by spending 1 time token as usual. Each machine has a number of firewalls that work like obstacles the hacker must overcome to take control of the machine. Each machine has a number of firewalls that the hacker must overcome in order to take control of the machine. As we see here on the machine sheet, there are 4 firewall spaces. The first 2 here on the fire guard are stock, which means they're always filled and you'll always have to bypass these. Then you have the backup, which are hollowed. Together these make up the firewall track. As we said, these are the stock firewalls. The machine will always have these, while the backup spaces are firewalls that may activate during a hack. Now in the beginning of the game, all of these firewall spaces are going to be empty, but as the game progresses, firewall tokens drawn from a bag will be added. Each machine also has default firewall on their response cards, both on the routine side and on the alert side. When a firewall token is drawn with this symbol, refer to the default firewall token symbol on the bottom of the response card. The test and what will occur are listed in the text on the response card. Alright, so to hack a firewall, player puts a time token in the hacking space, checks the first space of the firewall track. If it's empty, as we see here, we're going to draw from the token bag. Now I've got a couple of firewall tokens that each one of these firewall tokens are representing, or at least have a representation of the possible icons that you'll encounter when you draw a firewall token from the bag. So let's say that we drew this firewall token from the bag. A firewall consists of two main areas. The left is showing the firewall of the machine in routine mode, and the right with the hazard stripes in alert mode. The background color indicates which tag is relevant to rolling the test, although these can be bypassed by using specific combos. Sometimes there are firewall effect icons. When resolving a firewall, first resolve the effect, then make a hacking roll if required. Now let's take a look at all the possible effects. There are 4 firewall effects. Alert. So as soon as the firewall has been resolved, this machine's routine card would flip to the alert side. Backup firewall. We would add 1 firewall token face up to the first empty backup space on the firewall track. If the firewall track is already full, ignore the effect. Bypass. So the current firewall is bypassed automatically. You still place it onto the track, but it is bypassed. Now remember, if it's in the alert state, you'll ignore the bypass icon and refer to the alert side. And finally, we have the default firewall. You can see the default firewall, and many of these icons can show up in either the routine side or the alert side. Default firewall triggers the default firewall of the machine being hacked. You're going to refer to the default firewall section of the response card to see what kind of test needs to be rolled and the particular effect of a failed roll. Alright, so we come up on the FireGuard. It is in a nearby sector and a location that I've just entered, and I want to carry out a hack action. I've put my time token in one of my 4 hack spaces. Now he's got 4 firewalls that are possible, 2 that I'm going to at least at a minimum have to get through. Let's draw our first firewall token. Alright, our first firewall to get through is going to be a green test, but before I do the test, I need to do the effect. This effect icon tells me I need to add 1 firewall token to the backup firewall. I've added the token to the first space of the backup firewall, but I need to go back to the firewall token and do the initial test. After successfully hacking this firewall, instead of moving past it to go to the next firewall that's required, the hacker can elect to break it instead. This allows the hacker to control the machine for a short amount of time and make it easier to hack in the future. To break this firewall, all I need to do is put an additional 1 time token into the hacking space and flip the hacked firewall. Now that the firewall token is face down, I now have covered it up, and it appears that I only have 1 stock firewall space. After the firewall token is flipped face down, it has now eliminated 1 of the stock firewall spaces. The hacker also immediately gets to take a single machine write action using the machine. After this hack ends, the machine goes back to normal in its current sector, except with 1 broken firewall. Alright, so we come back up on the FireGuard and we decide to do another hacking action. Now remember, we did a broken firewall token here, so we got a quick ride, got to control him for a short amount of time, left him alone, and now I'm coming back and I'm starting the hack process again. Now I'm going to go to the open stock firewall space. This effect is going to tell me that the machine is going to become alert after the current firewall has been resolved. So I do my test and I pass. Now I'm going to move to the next token. Now because I had the alert effect, this machine is now in an alert status. I'm going to move over to the right side of the firewall token and I'm going to do a purple test. Now that I've completed all firewall tokens, remember the backup spaces only fill based on a firewall token that's drawn. I have completed all the firewall tokens. This machine is now hacked and under my control. Now let's rewind a little bit and let's say that we failed one of the tests. If any test has failed during the attempt, immediately check the response card to see how the machine reacts. Now we're going to go back up to the reaction portion of the response card as if we were doing an avoid test. The effects on this card are routine, but if he was in the alert status and we failed, we would use this response. And remember, it affects all characters who participated, including those that helped, in the hack. And hopefully, honestly, you have a machine that's in its routine state and it's relatively docile, and a failed hack doesn't have a response at all. Good job, Veronica. Now that the FireGuard is hacked, as soon as it is hacked, I'm going to choose one of the characters. Let's say that I had multiple in the area. I'm going to choose Veronica, and honestly, Veronica's my favorite character in the game. I'm partial to green. Her character sheet is green, so that's why I pick her, and she's rocking that boombox. I'm going to place the machine miniature by the standee, leaving it in the sectors. I'm going to place the miniature by the standee. It is still considered in its sector. For all intents and purposes, they act as one unit until the machine reset. This includes going to school, going home for dinner, and thematically the machine just kind of skulks in the background or hides where it needs to hide. A character with a hacked machine gets access to the special combo tag detailed on the machine sheet. A character with a hacked machine gets access to this special combo tag right here, detailed right on its machine sheet. It allows the hacker to bypass certain challenges or tests. The machine under your control can also be used to take a machine ride. It allows the person controlling it to move by grid sectors instead of location paths at the speed of the machine's movement. The transport ability of the machine is the number of characters that can ride it. If there are several models of the same machine type on the board, the person or the hacker taking control only takes control of one of the machines. More could be hacked, but that would constitute a separate hacking attempt. Bus ride, and I can move between two locations with the bus ride icons. Investigate. Now let's say Veronica decided to do an investigate action on the same location inn that she's currently at with a rumor token. She would immediately flip over the location card. The rumor would immediately initiate. She would read the flavor text. She would check the test, see what things she would have to do to succeed or fail. Make sure you keep an eye on the combo tags to make sure you don't automatically succeed. If you succeed, you remove the card, take your success, and remove the rumor token. And we look over here at Lena. She's currently in the restricted location L, which is machine breakdown. The rumor card is already face up, so when she takes an investigate action, she's going to go right into knowing what it is that she's investigating. She reads the flavor text, she does the test, she makes sure she doesn't automatically succeed with the combo tag. If she succeeds, and she's at a restricted location, remove the card, remove the rumor token. So if you completed a rumor card in that location, you'll put an explored token in the area, and that indicates to all the players that moving into that location costs 1, and moving out of there to go home in time for dinner also costs 1. Rest. Nils has had a nice, long, productive day. Nils has one more time token to use. Nils is going to decide to rest, put that time token in the rest action. A character can only take one rest action per turn, and when that rest action is taken, the condition exhausted, upset, scared, or injured can be relieved. Because injuries take a little bit of time to work themselves out, he doesn't want to wait, so he'll use that rest action to relieve the injury. When that token comes off of the track, it goes in to your portrait as spent. And as you take each individual action, you allocate a time token to the space. So the walk action has a total of 4 times it can be used in a turn. The bus ride can be used twice, and then the rest action can only be used once per turn. Alright, talking about the favor track, there is another action available to the character as long as the favor tracker is at the topmost position of the favor track, and that is the car ride. In order to pay for the car ride, spend a time token. After moving the time tracker down 1 space, put a time token in the car space. That makes the car ride unavailable for the remainder of the turn until you come up to the cleanup phase and get that time token back. Maybe I want to take that car ride action. I'm going to have to ask my parents for a little favor. They might not be happy about it, but I want to use that car because I can't drive. I'm just a kid, so I can move from any open location to any other open location on the board. Don't neglect that car ride if you're really needing to save your time tokens for other things. You can use the car ride to go from any location on the board. That means you can go from a restricted location to an open location, but never from an open location to a restricted location. If there's ever a situation to where taking the car ride would move the time tracker down into the grounded space, you cannot take the card ride action. Something to remember, no matter whether or not you're taking the car ride action or not, no matter what the position the favor tracker is on the favor track, the home for dinner action spaces are always available to you to allocate time tokens in those spaces based on your need to be home for dinner on time. Being home for dinner on time normally only takes one time token. Now, again, it doesn't matter where your track is at on the favor track. One time token is the base requirement to get home in time. So home for dinner costs are, if you're at an open location, one time token. If you're at a restricted orange location, it's going to cost you 2 time tokens. If you're at a restricted location with an explore token, the cost goes down to just 1. If you're already at your home location and the character's home locations focus only on the letter on the print and play, sometimes the location names won't match. That's okay, it'll be fixed in the final product, but Fria Ligan has directed us all to just focus on that H or the other letters on the other characters. Lena is on Charlie, Nils is on Bravo, for example. Just focus on the letter. If you're already at your home location, the cost for home for dinner is 0. Now let's say if you have a hacked machine under your control, the cost is -1 time token. So for example, if you're at a restricted location, the normal cost is 2. If you have that hacked machine under your control, it's reduced by 1, and now you only have to place 1 there. Now if you're already at your home location and it's -1, you don't get any bonus time, but you don't have to place anything there. If at any time your favor track moves down to the grounded position, it's going to lock 2 of your time tokens, and you will not get those recycled back into your pool at the bottom of your card during the cleanup of the home phase. The only way to get those time tokens back up are by getting home on time to where it will push that favor token up, and as soon as that is, you are no longer grounded, you will get those time tokens back. And now conditions have a hierarchy. As you take conditions, make sure that you place a condition in the more severe. So one of the ways to take a condition is by cards. Another way to take a condition is by pushing, which is re-rolling die, and we'll kind of talk about pushing later. So as you take the condition, if it's based on a card and it says become upset, you place it in the upset space. Now let's say that the character decides to push. Now there's a hierarchy here, and that's where that comes in. If you do a push and you decide to re-roll your die because you didn't get a 6, you have to pick a more severe condition to take. So in this case, upset is already taken. We can't take exhausted because it's less severe, so we have to place it in either scared or injured. So looking at the condition, if a character is exhausted, they pretty much just lose a time token, and it can be relieved by resting. If the character is upset, they can't get help from other characters. You can relieve this by getting help from other characters or taking a rest action. If a character is scared, they can't use their strength tag to modify their dice pool. It can be relieved by resting. And then finally, injured. Anytime you take an injured, you're going to place it in the furthest space to the left. It gives you -2 to all tests, and injured is relieved by waiting it out or taking the rest action. Waiting out an injured condition is pushing the block to the right during every cleanup portion of the home phase. If it's on the final spot and you are at the home phase, and during the cleanup you move the block off the injured, you are no longer injured. Alright, as characters move around the board and as machines move around the board, if the character and machine are ever nearby each other, there needs to be an avoid test. So let's say that Veronica wants to make a movement into the open location November at Morby. She notices there's a Mark 79 machine nearby in sector F8. Alright, so things you'll have to look at their response cards. So we're looking at the Mark 79's response cards. They have a standard routine, an erratic routine, and then a standard alert and an erratic alert card. Now the Mark 79 response cards have at least one of the three possible icons that you'll see in their response section. So let's go ahead and take a look at the card real quick. So we've got the test that you have to do, what the response is. All the information at the bottom of the response card is their default firewall response whenever you are doing a hack, and the firewall token that you reveal or that you're trying to hack has that symbol in it. You'll refer to this portion of the card, but we're going to be looking up here for failed avoiding tests. Here you can see the response for a standard and a response for erratic, and here at the standard area you can see he's going to have an ignore. So if the test fails, he'll just ignore you, nothing will happen. But let's say that the Mark 79 was in an alert status. So in the alert status, we look at what the test is. If we fail the test, we move into the response section. This is a special response icon. In this Mark 79's alert status, a response would be backup call. So the closest warden is going to move nearby sector and immediately try to avoid it. And here you see an example of a block still having to do a test to avoid. If you fail the test, you're going to be blocked. You are pushed back into the location you came from. Let's say that you took a car ride and you came from a non-connected location. Move to the closest open location if possible. And this one has an extra grabbed, become scared, and injured. And a little bit of a difference for the erratic routine side of the Mark 79. He avoids you if you fail the test, but if you fail the test, he doesn't block your movement. You still continue into the location, but he's going to bull rush you and you'll become scared. Remember those diary cards we were talking about? Make sure you're checking them out. Make sure you're pushing yourselves forward to meet those objectives. And finally, the home phase. In the home phase, the characters return home to dinner, homework, and bed. And hopefully, on time. During this phase, the characters, which are still kids, need to be home in time for dinner. So in this situation, we have Nils at a restricted location, Foxtrot. We have Lena at her home location in Charlie, and we have Veronica in an open location, Gulf. She should be over there in H. Let's look at their character sheets and see how not being home on time and being home on time, and based on where you're at, affects your overall standing on the favor track. Now remember, Veronica was at location G. She needs to be at location H to be home, and she didn't allocate any of her time tokens to being home on time while she was in an open location. If the player would have allocated at least one time token to the home for dinner space, she would have been spending a time token to move her way back there. But because she didn't, and she took a car ride action and it pushed her down on her favorite track already, she didn't make it home on time, so now she's grounded. Alright, and in this setup, if you remember, Lena was at location Charlie, which was her home location. She didn't allocate any time tokens to her home for dinner space because she didn't have to, because her home for dinner cost was 0. So because she made it home for dinner on time, her favorite track, because she was really listening to her parents to be home on time, she goes up 1 space on the favorite track. And finally, let's take a look at Nils. Now remember, Nils was in a restricted location F, but because during his turn and during all the actions that Nils was taking, looks like he did a little bit of investigation, a little bit of scouting, took a short walk. He did get upset based on something that happened maybe on one of the cards. He didn't take a ride anywhere, but he did allocate 2, which is the cost to get home for dinner, so he made his way back, and because he's already at the top of the favor track, he's good to go, but because he got home in time for dinner, he doesn't go down on the favor track. Remember when we talked about moving along the weekly schedule, and finally Friday comes along. It's the end of the school week, we're about to get up early, but we got to make sure that we check our chore cards. As you take actions throughout the game during the adventure phase, be sure to look back at your chores. I've got 2 examples of chore cards here. The chore card on the left is for a week 1, and the indicate number there at the top right of the corner indicates that it's a week 1. And on the opposite side, when you were originally given this one during week 1, you can see how chores are divvied up by week 1 there at the bottom. That's the back of the card, and then the front of the card. You can see that the flavor text is fairly common. Make sure you read that. Very heavy on the narrative in the game, so enjoy it. And then what the condition is in order to meet the threshold of chore tokens that you're going to place on the chore card as you complete it. And again, make sure you're keeping an eye on that throughout the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during the first week, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on chore cards. You can see here this one is for week 2. Same indication on the back of the card. It'll say week 2 on it. If you've completed your week 1 successfully, you take the success. If you failed, you take the failure. And then after you've determined if you've succeeded or failed, you'll draw a week 2 card. All right, let's talk about the threshold. So as you complete this individual task, place a chore token there. Again, these chore tokens that I've supplied on my own, it was just some negatives from another board game. I usually keep all the negatives and tokens because I like to have trackers, so I just took a couple of blank tokens, wrote what looks like a list of chores to do, and then I just use those for tokens. All right, so if you come to Friday, the first week, you will reference your chore card. If you have 2 chore tokens on there, it'll tell you what it is that you get out of it. And then let's say that the first week you had a failure on that, you'd take the failure condition. Still, either way, if you succeeded or failed in your chore, still draw a week 2 chore. Alright, so now that we're in the cleanup phase, we're going to take certain board effects that might take place if there's tokens out on the board, if there's a card that tells you to take an effect, if there's something in the diary cards, make sure that you're referring to those. There's certain things like machines, removing their alert state if they haven't been the subject of a hacking action. Also slide all cards that are currently inside the rumor track and slide them down as far to the right as they'll go. This will prepare you for the new school phase and to be prepared for new rumors to be added. And finally, the first player passes the first player token to the player on their left. All time tokens inside the action spaces go back into the time pool, as well as from the portrait and the car ride. Any tokens that were allocated to being grounded, as we have over here, Niles, will not come back. He will get the car ride, he will get what's coming from his action spaces, and he will get what's coming from his portrait. But anything that's in the grounded and anything that's in the conditions will not come back at this time. If a character has tokens in the home for dinner spaces, those will also come back to their time token pool. Alright, gang, that's all I've got for you in this video. It's a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I appreciate you sticking around. I'll reiterate all the links in the description below, all the time tags will take you to the other videos. I'm going to be making more. I'll make a full playthrough. I'm also going to make probably a little bit longer video. I know, how can that be possible, but one that those that want to get more into the depths of the rules, I'll go more over the components a little bit closer, a little bit more of the rules that I might have glazed over a little bit here, but I'm hoping that each one of these individual videos will just get everyone a little bit closer to understanding. Most games that I really enjoy, I dig deep in the rules. I make the player aids that help the game progress a little bit faster for me, setting it up. So I do hope that you're enjoying these. If you have any questions or comments, if you'd like me to make a video on a specific topic, I'm active as I can be. I haven't been as active in the last couple of days because I've been trying to focus on making this video, and I'm going to jump back into the comments section. I need to jump into Board Game Geek a little bit more. I appreciate everybody that's been active in the comments on the Kickstarter page. Please, if you haven't already, jump over there, check them out. You can get this print and play for free. Thanks to the Fria Ligan team, you've got a great game started. I know it's an alpha, I know it's early. It's been a pleasure to be able to jump in and try this thing out and be very collaborative with the team. They've been very active, very responsive. So thanks to Martin Takaichi for getting this system together. It can't be an easy task. Board games are definitely harder than making RPGs. I can understand that. So I'm looking forward to the next year. I'm going to be making as many more playthrough videos that I can possibly stand, or you guys can possibly stand. So I hope you guys are going along with me. Overall, I'm extremely excited. So make sure that you drop me a couple of comments in the comments section over the Kickstarter page or over on Board Game Geek, and I'll be more than happy to respond to you guys. So thanks again, and as always, share your experiences and stay in the loop.
And now for a public service announcement.
So I'd like to point out Fria Ligan corrected me on a video that I did for setup, and I wanted to take the time to do a quick correction. During the setup for the bot amok scenario, Watchdogs went into sector A4. So anytime a machine enters a sector that is nearby, that means the grid sector intersects the location circle. In this case, sector A4 does intersect location A, and location A is a restricted location. You start or change the machine's routine status to an alert status. Hey, maybe we should check out those diary cards.
Are you curious about what it is that you should be doing to advance the game of Tales from the Loop, the board game? Diary cards are your go-to location.
Are you curious about what you should be doing in the Marlin Islands? Why is that robot where it's at? Should I care about the robot? Should I care about that location? What should I be doing? Am I in a time paradox? Your go-to location are those diary cards.
Maybe I haven't mentioned it before, but those diary cards, make sure you're advancing them.
Hey, have I said anything about the diary card yet?
Has that erratic behavior number 30 card been sitting there for a while? You might want to focus on doing the objective.
Hey, I hear there's an interesting thing to focus on in the diary cards. Let's go ahead and read it.
How are those diary cards coming?
Hey, maybe I haven't talked about... Oh, I have? Okay.